Hi everyone, it's Majorie here from the Punk Priestess, and welcome to July. We're going to go over the astrology and pull some tarot cards, oracle cards, all the things. And yeah, it's a wild time, so much going on astrologically as well as collectively, politically, as always, as per usual. But we're going to dive in. So July is the month of retrogrades. Everything's going retrograde pretty much this month. So kind of prepare for that. That was one thing I was looking out for when I was planning my wedding date. I was like, I do not want to get married during Mercury retrograde, and my wedding's the day before Saturn goes retrograde. So I try to dodge as many as I could. But yeah, this is the month of retrograde. So buckle up, get ready for it. We're going to see just a lot of, chaotic change, especially too because we also have one of the most major astrological transits this year that everyone's talking about, kind of looking forward to see like what happens. And this is Uranus going into Gemini. So I'm going to do like a whole separate post on this later on in the month. But the last time that Uranus was in Gemini was 84 years ago, and this was during World War II. And then before that, it was the Civil War. And then before that, it was like it's always like during revolutionary times. It's like Revolutionary War. So like every time Uranus is in Gemini, we go through some type of chaotic war change in this country and as well as around the world. Also, to the United States has their Uranus in Gemini, so the United States will be going through its Uranus return as well. That won't be officially until 2027, so we still have a couple more years because Uranus is in the early degrees of the United States return in this planet, but it is yeah, so it is gonna be crazy. I'm just kind of telling people like the vibes might feel like you feel like we're gearing up for something, like you feel it, and then everything's gonna go retrograde and it's just gonna be like a hot mess. So let's just kind of deep dive into it. And every month too, for all the new and full moons, I do like a special recap for that as well as tarot spreads. So just make sure also on my Substack that you're tuning in every couple weeks or every week, honestly, to kind of see what's new and to get more astrological insights based off of the moon phases. So first things first, I'm just going to go over the main transits that are happening. So we have a lot going on July 4th, which happens to be the US's birthday, so it's like Independence Day, and we have Venus entering Gemini, and then we also have Neptune retrograde in Aries at 2 degrees and 10 minutes. So, we're having like a lot play out on this day, and it just is just like a year in this country where it feels like morale is very low. Like not a lot of people are celebrating or like even doing anything. Like my fiance and I, we're not doing anything for 4th of July. We're not celebrating at all. We're just going to be like deep cleaning the home and just kind of like resting and relaxing because it has been a clusterfuck. So sometimes it's like hard being like aware and conscious because you just are like you can never fully rest. Like your spirit can like never fully rest because there's just so much going on all the time. And yeah, you're trying to balance like being involved and not being involved. And yeah, I think like there's a lot of, I think, deep resentment, pain, sadness that might be felt on the 4th and like kind of seeing, the trajectory of where this country is going. And it's like, going down very, very fast. So it's sad to see. It's sad to see, if you know, take a lot of pride in this country and just as like a hardworking person in general. It's like you were taught to be a good person, you were taught to work hard and to treat others well, and you're realizing like, did that even matter? Because what these people are doing in the white supremacy house is the exact opposite of that. So it's just kind of like we're in this moral dilemma right now, individually and collectively. And I think we're going to be really feeling that with what happens on Independence Day. We'll see what also goes on because Venus is going to be in Gemini. So there's just like a lot of mixed emotions and feelings, and there might be some crazy memes that come out, or, we'll just kind of see how people are reacting to what's going on July 4th. And then on the 7th, this is when we actually have Uranus entering Gemini. So it's been since the 1940s since this has happened. And this is going to be like a lot of unpredictable change, especially when it comes to communication, when it comes to travel, when it comes to technologies, especially social media. I feel too like we're going to be noticing more creative collaboration and like groups like forming and coming together. So there's just like a lot that's going to be coming our way and like, news and information and, just a lot of unpredictability with that. Like you can never fully predict a Uranus transit. You can only really see like the history of Uranus in Gemini and what it has done, not only in this country, but within the world. And like, I think there's going to be a lot of boundary changes when it comes to different countries, especially with, ongoing wars and conflict. So there's just going to be a lot. But this starts officially on the 7th. And then on the 10th, we have our full moon in Capricorn, and it's at 18 degrees and 49 minutes. And this actually is going to be conjunct my natal Capricorn moon. Mine's at like 16 degrees. So very powerful. I was hoping that the moon would still be full on my wedding day, but it's not, but it's okay. It will still kind of look full in a way, but yeah. So the full moon in Capricorn is going to be on the 10th. And I will be, doing a breakdown of the Sabian symbol, having a chart, like a tarot spread and chart all on my Substack in the next couple weeks. So stay tuned for that. And then on the 11th, we have Juno, the asteroid. It's going direct in Scorpio. So it's at 16 degrees and 15 minutes. So a lot of intensity. So Juno's been retrograde for a little bit. So if you, check your charts, I'm doing more work with the asteroids. I teach classes, but I am going to start offering services if you want more of like an analyzation of the asteroids in your chart. They're really important to work with, especially when it comes to relationships, especially Juno too. It's like the goddess of marriage. So when it comes to relationships, let's kind of see how things go. But I feel like there's going to be a lot more intensity collectively with the directness of this asteroid in the sign of Scorpio in the middle of the degree of 16. So we're gonna see a lot of like amped up energy, and I feel it's gonna be very high spirited, very passionate. But sometimes this can be like violence too, because like Scorpio is the underworld, it's very Pluto driven as well as Mars driven. So it could be kind of people reaching their boiling points and choosing violence, choosing vengeance. So I feel like let's kind of see what happens there in the next several months with Juno now direct in Scorpio. And then on the 13th of July, we have Saturn going retrograde in Aries. So, Neptune goes retrograde first, and then Saturn goes retrograde. And you're going to start seeing too, like Venus is in the sun in Cancer, and then Venus in Gemini. They're going to be making a lot of aspects to the planets the next month. So there's like Venus is very strong. Like Venus and the Sun are extremely strong in July. So you're going to be hearing a lot about Venus. I think this is a good time to, pay attention to your natal Venus and how you interact with people, what's going on there, how some of these transits are influencing your chart personally. And I do think this is going to be, especially with Uranus in Gemini, it's going to be a very like communicative, conversational time, with technology too, but like in person, like interactions. There's just going to be a lot of chatter. Um, and not all of the chatter, will be horrible. A lot of it can be very productive. A lot of it can be a lot of planning. I think a lot of people are, doing a lot of planning and trying to create a new future, trying to, move things in a positive direction with a new vision. And we have yet to really see that take center stage, but it's coming. Um, and then we have on the 18th, Mercury going retrograde in Leo at 15 degrees and 35 minutes. So any like Leos or anyone who has their Mercury in Leo, definitely, check those degrees to see if it hits you personally. But yeah, that's going to be our second Mercury retrograde in the year. And this, it seems interesting. It's like, wow, like this year has gone by so fast. And the last time we had Mercury retrograde was in the springtime, was a couple months ago. So it just feels weird, like, oh wow, we're already on our second one. So Yeah, that Mercury retrograde is going to be until August. So just kind of keep track there. And then we have on the 22nd, Leo season starts. So happy birthday to all my Leos. And then on the 24th, we had the new moon in Leo at 2 degrees and 8 minutes. And again, I'll do like a whole breakdown of this. And then on July 30th, we'll have Chiron going retrograde in Aries. So another retrograde. So this is like yeah, this is Neptune, Saturn, Mercury, and then Chiron. So yeah, definitely the month of retrogrades. And that's going to be going retrograde at 27 degrees and 9 minutes. So I know a lot of my clients are going through their Chiron return. So check the degrees, especially my clients who have the later degrees in Chiron. This is really going to be influencing you. And I think this is also interesting, like, like we have all these planets, Neptune, Saturn, and then now we have Chiron, the asteroid, like we have all those retrograde in the sign of Aries. So what this is telling me is that this can be a preparation for battle, a preparation to try to fight. I think this is going to be a lot of pissed off energy, a lot of strategy. It can even be a little bit of impulsive behavior as well, because sometimes Aries, well, not sometimes, a lot of times, Aries like do first and think later. So we're going to probably see a lot of impulsive actions and a lot of people not wanting their individuality threatened, and their creative spirit threatened. So I think it's going to be a lot of volatile energy, especially if people are trying to suppress, others. In like with Aries energy and the retrograde of these signs, it's like there's not going to be people wanting to take that energy. So I think there's going to be a lot of planned rebellions, a lot of plans like, okay, how can we battle this? And there might be secret groups and organizations forming, it could be another underground railroad, trying to form for, protecting migrants or even like women trying to get abortions. I think there can be a lot of, secret groups that are offline trying to help people who are in danger. And I think that's going to be going on behind the scenes and like inside networks. And then I also feel too that there's going to be actually like volatile in your face attacks that are going to be happening based off of just, yeah, I was just talking about this today with some friends because like the first book that I read this year was Babel. And it's a very popular book. And this book, really is about revolution and rebellion. But it's if you restrict people, if you take away their jobs and you replace it with, in this case, they replace them with silver. But, we're kind of trying to replace jobs with like AI and like Chat GPT and things like that. You like the people are not going to have anything, and their only means to try to protect themselves and their families is to rebel and is to fight back, and it will get deadly. And eventually they will win. And that's going to be what happens. And a lot of people who are trying to make these decisions in Washington and, trying to cut Medicaid and all these things are not seeing the long-term effects or picture. They're very short-sighted because greed is a very short-sighted issue. It's like when people who are like hoarding wealth, that's a mental health issue. There's something mentally wrong with them. And we're going to be seeing a lot of repercussions and backlash. And the Civil War is really going to be about the people against the 1%. That's really what it's going to be. It's not going to be like, I mean, there's going to be racial stuff mixed in with it, but it's not going to be how it was back in the Civil War. It's a different fight, it's a different battle. Property and money is still intertwined with that, of course. And it is, too, maybe it is, with migrants and abortion and like there's, physical autonomy. And race is going to be a part of this journey. But I think the main thing is you trying to find ways to go against the 1%. And I do feel, boycotts are working. The Target boycott is the most successful boycott we've ever had in 70 years. So, I feel that, continue doing what you can to be involved in the resistance and the revolution, do whatever you can do. Everyone's role will be different. You don't have to even go, super, like, you don't have to search near and far to figure out what your role could be. I had a client a couple weeks ago, was like asking like, what is my role in the revolution? And I told her, your role is like what you're good at, what you can do, what you can provide. And you can boycott. That's the most easiest one. Not support big companies and businesses, but to support small. Do more community-oriented work. How can you get involved in community? That's what you can do, but also like your God-given talents and abilities, that is what you can use to help others and to help yourself and to be involved in the revolution. We don't have to search near and far to figure out. Like what we have is inside of us and around us in our environment. And the last major transit is Venus entering Cancer. So, a little bit of a softness, a little bit of sweetness as we end the month. Kind of like settling in of our feelings, connecting more of the people closest to us in our lives. And yeah, that's the main stuff. But I have the mundane here. I'll go over more of the mundane throughout the month, but for time purposes, I don't want this to be super long. Um, I'm excited to pull some cards because I'm using a couple decks I haven't used in years, and I am excited to kind of brush off the dust and use them into this reading. So I will apologize in advance. Some of these decks are no longer in print, or if you do find them, it is going to be a little pricey. So just yeah, kind of be aware of that. But I always try to be transparent. I don't like to gatekeep, and I will give you the names of the decks on my Substack. So just look out for that. Also, I just wanted to talk about my shirt really quick. So this is by a French indie rock band called Oracle Sisters. It might be like reversed for you if you're reading this, but it's Oracle Sisters is the band. I want to show the back because it's super cool if you love tarot. Let's see if this will show properly. But I have here some of the major arcana cards. So awkward. But I just want to show this shirt off. And there's also like a really cool poster. I'll take a picture of the poster that I bought. I just framed it yesterday. So yeah, check out this band. I'm going to link their music. Their latest album is called Divinations, which, right on point if you love tarot and if you are into any divinatory practice. But they're also like astrologers. They print out horoscopes in these French newspapers a couple times a year. And they have a song called Scorpio Rising, which is my favorite song by this band. But yeah, I just wanted to give a little shout out to Oracle Sisters. And if you like this shirt and you want like the tarot cards on your back. Definitely check it out. And we're gonna start with the main energy. We're just gonna kind of just see what the vibes are. I'm not really sure what it's going to be like. I just know it's gonna be kind of a clusterfuck of a month with Uranus entering Gemini, and then we have Venus in Gemini. Just sometimes the Gemini energy is very like, I don't know, it's a lot. Sometimes like a trash fire. So it's gonna be an interesting month. I don't know how exactly where things are gonna go. Um, but we're gonna see if the cards can give us a little insight. All right, we're gonna start from main energy here. And pull Oracle card. And I'm going to take pictures of all the cards, as always, that's on my Substack. So make sure you're subscribing. Okay, I knew it. So what I have here is the Mother of Swords upright. And then what do I have as the Oracle card? I have Revelation. So this is totally fitting. We're going to have a lot of revelations come to light. And I think this is going to be a very powerful cause and effect with Uranus and Gemini. Like new information is coming to the surface. Um, and this information, just because it has like the Mother of Swords doesn't have to necessarily be like feminine. But maybe it does pertain to a woman. Maybe this is coming from a woman, but I just think within ourselves, we have to connect to our higher power. We have to connect to our higher self and see what the downloads are, see what information we're getting there. It's being downloaded from spirit. And those can like really become euphoric moments, epiphanies in a way. And I think like there's just, hopefully this can be a switch of gears for certain people But I think this is like illumination for everyone about, things that have been kept underneath the rug, things that, are being done in secret, being revealed. And sometimes that's with the retrogrades. We can get information that we were seeking that was, held off from us months ago, or, maybe there is information that, isn't ready to come to the surface. But I think we're going to be getting I feel like I'm mind blown. Like that's kind of like the energy I'm feeling, like the vibe is like we're going to be all mind blown in some way, shape, or form in July. It's a mind blown type of month. And, I think a lot of people are going to be talking about it. A lot of people are going to be upset. A lot of people are going to have opinions like the memes and, the dialogue is just going to be, there's going to be a lot of content that we're going to be consuming. And it's going to be like a flood. And, we also have to make sure I've been pulling the Hanged Man a lot in client readings the past couple weeks, and I was even like researching a little bit more on the Hanged Man this year or today, and like getting different perspectives of it. And it really is an energy where we get a lot of revelations, and we have to sit with it before we can act on it, and we have to let things kind of settle. And yeah, it's like not a react. We can't be very reactionary when the Hangman comes in, and I just think like we need to be open. We need to have the third eye open. We need to have the crown. We need to have the throat. Like we need to have our chakras open so that we can receive this information. And I think what's also going to be interesting too is that nothing wants to be concealed anymore. Like once Uranus is going to Gemini, it's like I'm not going to conceal. Like everything is available, to the public, and it's like your you have to do your due diligence to go seek this information and to go, read these books or, dive into this type of content. Like no one should be in the dark. And I think this is something that people are realizing too. Like when people are like, "Well, I'm not into politics," or, but I think people who maybe had that perspective and who would kind of like push things, to the back burner are going to be realizing I actually need to pay attention because now things are really affecting me. So we're going to be having a lot of people wake up and a lot of people really kind of be like shell shocked about certain things. A lot of things people are like, oh, I've known that. But, some people, it takes them some time to wake up or nothing has really affected them in a very personal, obvious way. And when things do, that's when they realize, oh, crap, I need to actually pay attention more and get involved and like figure out resources, figure out like a plan B. And I think that's what's going to start kind of this collective dialogue of okay, we need to get together, we need to ban like our resources, both physical, mental, emotional, and we need to kind of see how we can move forward and create a new pathway. And I think that it's very powerful. I think like the power of intuition with the Mother of Swords too, and like using your intuition like as a sword, as a weapon, as a tool. That's going to be very important. And this is like why this administration wants to suppress knowledge. They want to make it harder for people to get educated because when you have an educated populace, it's harder to control them and to dominate them. And I think this is something that, people are like, okay, well, we have education now, like we have all these resources. We're not going back to the way things once were, and we're going to, do something with what we know, do something with our knowledge. And that's what I see here coming in with this Uranus and Gemini influence. We'll also see, with AI and, the battle against that. People are already boycotting and doing, protest at these places where AI is destroying the environment. And we're going to see more and more people kind of turn on that resource. Um, okay. So pulling some more cards here. So many swords. I'm not surprised. We have so much Gemini energy coming in. Um, all right, so this is what I have here. So I have all the court cards. I have the Knight of Swords reversed, and then I have the King of Swords reversed, and then I have this beautiful Nine of Cups. So we're going to start with these sword cards because I kind of feel like this is going to be people. This is going to be characters. Masculine and feminine, gender inclusive, of course. I really feel that there's going to be a lot of collective strategy, a lot of, working behind the scenes, secret collaboration in groups that are offline, who are going to be trying to find ways to dismantle the powers at bay. I also feel too, and this is just something, it's going to take more time to be revealed, but we're getting more revelations about this election, being manipulated by the machines and whatever Elon Musk did with his cronies. Like, we know that this election was stolen in some capacity. It's not right. And this could actually maybe even reveal, and maybe it doesn't reveal everything all in July, but slowly, we're seeing more states, having lawsuits and figuring things out. I think there's like maybe 12, 16 states right now that have noticed, especially all the swing states. Like, we're in Michigan here, so we're a swing state, like noticing like that things aren't adding up, like the math really is not mathing. And I think this could also be like this administration kind of shitting their pants right now and being like, oh my God, we have to find ways to like, form control or to try to like keep this power that, isn't rightfully ours. And that's what I'm sensing here. There's a little bit of scattered disarray. There's some confliction, there's some confusion, and this is really like the reason why they're trying to push this like horrible bill, this big bad bill, is because they are like losing power. They're losing momentum, they're losing force. All of their plans, most of their plans of Project 2025 is failing in court and like getting reversed. So like they're trying whatever they can to really grip on control. Like they're holding on for dear life. And I feel like no matter what happens with the results of this, like I really hope it doesn't, continue any further. But I think it's going to backlash no matter what happens. And it is going to really cause them to panic and have a lot of um, uncertainty and scattered energy. So this is not good. Like I just think there's a lot of, especially when it comes to the King of Swords, like this is really someone who's on the throne. And I mean, this could be Trump. It could just be, whoever is behind the scenes. I mean, Trump's just a puppet at this point. Whoever's behind the scenes trying to manipulate whatever it is. Like you're really seeing like a struggle because the people here, this like feminine, I mean, it could be feminine or just like this collaborative energy is not going to just have amnesia and forget. Like, some people can compartmentalize, parts of their lives, be like, okay, that happened, but I'm just going to forget about it because it's uncomfortable. Majority of people don't live that way. So that's just one thing too. I don't understand why this administration just thinks we're just going to like forget history or just poof, like we don't remember. Like, if anything, more and more is coming to the surface because we have Pluto in Aquarius, and Pluto in Aquarius doesn't like secrets. It reveals everything and it holds to onto receipts. So, it's just kind of like when we're working against organized intellectual people, and you don't have that for yourselves, you are ultimately going to fail. And I just think there's a lot of scattered last minute decisions. This is just going to be very impulsive. There's a lot of impulsive energy. So I also think too, like a lot of us really need some time to just tune out and tune in. We're gonna have to try to balance, okay, how many days a week do I want to be online? And how many days a week do I need to rest and like move away from my phone and not open up social media and not, read about the news, whatever's going on in the world. Like you kind of need to shelter yourself so that you can focus on your God-given talents and your gifts and abilities and continue to live an abundant, happy life. And I kind of feel there's going to be a lot of this like going offline. And that's something we're going to continue to see, like offline communities with the rise of AI and technology and where it's going. So many people are already turned off by it, and they're just going to continue to not get involved in it. And that's going to grow into actual communities. And I do feel like more like wider spread communities. It's already existing in some capacity, but like really on a more mainstream level. But I feel like the Nine of Cups is just like really enjoying rest, really enjoying solitude, sit underneath a tree with a good book and have some snaps. Give yourself, an opportunity a couple of times a week to have a nap. Like really just soak into pleasure. Remember your human experience. and be sensitive to the energy around you, but also it's a little bit of like hedonistic energy. Like we wanted to live a pleasurable life. We want to make sure we're resting, we're nurturing our soul, we're nurturing our spirit and our body, and that we're maintaining loving relationships and connections with others, as well as ourselves. Like we need to make sure we keep our own, morale and like self-esteem high, but we also want to make sure that we're enjoying connection with other people and loving relationships. And that's something to remember too. And a lot of that you have to get offline and be present in the relationships that you're in. So we're going to be seeing that as a way to kind of kind of do the opposite, like the duality of like being tuned in and like being very vocal and all in, using our intellect and skills and knowledge, and like taking the opposite approach and just doing like none of that. And, maybe we all need some type of silent retreat. And, if there's maybe we can practice, silence, more solitude, maybe we can really dive into that hermit energy and just kind of spend more time by ourselves and just thinking about, solutions to some of these problems. And I feel like that's going to be the, a part of it, a part of what we can do to kind of reel in some of this energy instead of always being outward focus. Um, let's see what I have here. I'm just gonna kind of pull some cards. I haven't used some of these decks in a while, so I don't remember what the art looks like on this deck. So let's see here. And then I have this Nostradamus Oracle deck. So I'm gonna pull that. Okay, this is interesting. I'm pulling some financial cards. All right. So what I first pulled was the Five of Pentacles reversed. So usually I do like to see this card reversed, which indicates that maybe there is some relief from a period of loss, physical loss, financial loss. Um, there is some type of like help or we're recovering from the situation. And this might be going back to the Mother of Swords and Revelation of like, whatever decisions kind of get made with this big ugly bill and whatever else is kind of coming. This is going to, like when the going gets tough, when things get hard, that's when we are faced with the most form of action to try to resolve things. And I think with the Five of Pentacles reversed, this is really a time of like how do we recover from loss? How do we, regroup from this? How can we help each other? Like this is definitely a very much like charity type oriented card and, wanting to seek out charitable acts to kind of help each other. Or at least, thinking about how can we support one another in times when all is lost and finding ways to continue to exist, finding ways to continue getting what we need. And I have the Wheel of Fortune reversed, and on top of the card is poverty. So, I just think with the Wheel of Fortune right now, like Jupiter is in Cancer, and we're just it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. Like, we're not moving into seamless times. We're moving into times where we're really going to have to go through a lot of transformation and change, and it's just beginning and it's going to be very hard and heavy. I do think poverty doesn't have to just be financial. It can be impoverished in so many other ways. And um, there's no reason for the most wealthiest nation in the world to have people who are hungry, to have, to not have universal health care. There's no reason that we have these problems and these issues, and they're just getting worse with some of these tax breaks these billionaires and these wealthy 1% are getting. And we really have to find a way. And this is why I think it's so important. There's so much strategy coming. Like there's a lot of awareness of what's not working, but there's also ways that we have to come together and find strategy to find solutions through strategy to find ways to like make things better. And, with the Wheel of Fortune, it's an opportunity to go on a new journey, to go on a new adventure, to go on a new ride. And, but coming down can be hard because we have to go through all the revelation, the realization that when we were on top, it didn't work. And, there's a lot of disillusionment. Maybe when we thought we were on top, that this was like the end all be all, this is when everything was amazing. This could be like the Obama era, like the Bill Clinton era, like, times when like we have like a lot of idealization, very nostalgia of like, oh, things were better when, but really it was just masked, and like the mask is coming off, or we're seeing everything. And now we have to decide what we want to do about it and create something different. But we first have to like kind of sit with the loss. We have to sit with the devastation. And that's really what these cards are saying. Like, in order for us to go on to a new journey and to do things better and to build better and to go higher and go up, we have to come back down to earth and really see like what is going on. And I think more than ever, there's just so much hyper awareness now, but it's even going to be more obvious than it is now with Uranus and Gemini. Then I have here the Three of Swords reverse, which also too, like, I usually like these cards reverse because to me it just seems like we know what the problem is. Like there's a lot of awareness. Like that's what I'm getting. It's like there's a lot of awareness with the collective, the general collective consciousness. There's a lot of awareness, but I feel like, the people in the white supremacy house, they don't have the perspective, they don't have the awareness because they only see what's right in front of them. They don't see beyond. So they're the ones who's kind of suffering with their lack of imagination with the Knight of Swords and the King of Swords. But the reversal and the duality with the people is that we're seeing like the truth for what it is. We're not trying to run away from it. We're not trying to mask it and cover it up with a band-aid. It's like, okay, things are real now. Like things can, they're as bad as they can get. We have no other we have no other means than to try to find a solution to make things better, and we have to kind of work from scratch. And that's really what these cards are saying here. And there's a lot of mental challenge with this because sometimes it's like, crap, I don't want to do this. I don't want to have to do this, but I have no choice. I have to because it's not only my survival, but it's, the world at large. It's everyone else. Like we're all intertwined and connected. And hopefully that's the revelation more people start seeing is like we're all connected together. And that's what we all have to support each other and make sure nothing like this in the history of this country happens again with having some type of dictator at the throne. Like we really have to make sure this never happens again. And the only reason that some people will get this message is if things get really, really bad. People who saw this message from a mile away was trying to prevent this from happening, but this might be the lesson that a lot of people need. And unfortunately, a lot of the people who were trying to prevent this are going to have to kind of suffer a little bit along, like temporarily suffer alongside the people who were just too naive and didn't want to see the truth. But this like wake up call is, collectively in some way, shape, or form for everyone. And I feel like we have to go down to come back up, and this is a low period. It's gonna be really drastic. It's gonna be really drastic. Um, but with the three, there's a lot of, there's other people involved. The Wheel of Fortune, like we're gonna be able to, accumulate more knowledge, more experience. We have to expand in new ways and make sure when we get back on top of the wheel, it's lasting expansion and opportunity and prosperity for everyone, not just a small elite group. And with the Five of Pentacles here, I really do feel that, yeah, like we have to sit with the karma, we have to sit with the devastation, and, we have to find a way to rebuild, and it's going to take some time. But time is all we have right now to try to work together to figure this out. And that's with all the retrogrades, I think are really kind of saying like, I'm giving you the time to find a solution to solve or to find some type of path and way forward from the devastation. Okay, so um what I'm pulling here is this principal card, and this is like an oracle card. It is Sagittarius, Jupiter and Sagittarius. So, I think the principle of the situation is, it's going to be different for everyone. But I feel what's interesting too is like we have this, I think it's like a bishop hat in the mouth of this bird. It's like kind of carrying it. And then we have the duality of the sun and the moon. So, I just think it's just, we gotta have to find faith. Like we have to connect with like what faith means to us. I think definitely there's like this, Christian nationalism that's trying to infiltrate, or they already are infiltrating our livelihood. And, it's uncalled for. Most people don't want that, but they're trying to rule with that. And we have to try to figure out a way to get that out of our politics, but also to try to, disconnect from it, with the propaganda that's being pushed on us. And, also as well, like, religion is very suppressive. And I think that might be something too, like we got to like, move away from this type of suppression. Not everyone is under this, form of suppression, but a lot of people are because a lot of people have a lot of shame and guilt and a lot of people hate themselves, quite honestly. That's why we're in a lot of these issues too. And like the Maha movement with like eating, it's pretty much like a very elaborate eating disorder, pretty much but there's a lot of like projection of people's beliefs, limited, very kind of obscure beliefs that are trying to infiltrate the public. And a lot of it is based off of shame, self-hatred, and a lack of self-control. And I think too, with this card, like we have to connect with our own spiritual principles or our own, whatever it may be. You have to find your soul has to find its own journey in this world. And that's where it comes from, like critical thinking and self-development outside of, some type of group think, cult. So like we have to make sure we're doing our own work on our own time. And that's what we kind of need to fly into the sun with. We need to have our own principles, our own morals, our own standards. And I have Jupiter here. Um, and I think this is, I forgot what season this one was. I don't have my guidebook with me, I forgot, but I think this is summer, and Jupiter just went into Cancer. So, I think Jupiter's gonna be a very strong force, still, behind the scenes. Uranus is kind of taking a little bit, center stage this month, but Jupiter is still going to be very important. And, with Jupiter in Cancer, we have to kind of allow our spirituality, our intuitive gifts, our clairvoyant abilities to soar. And that's what I think this card is also trying to say is connect with something esoteric, connect with something that is harmonious to your spirit, to your individual path, not the hive mind, what everyone else, wants you to do or believe, because it's very limiting. Oh, sorry. I have my little guidebook here. I just want to double check the seasons. I haven't used this deck in a while. So, yeah, let's see if I can find it quickly. Okay, I'm sorry. Autumn is yellow. Summer is red. Okay, so yeah, so misspoke here. So this is actually, let's see how Jupiter plays a role in the fall, not in the summer. Like I said, Uranus is kind of like the main planetary energy of this month, but I do think it's still important that we understand, what's going on of Jupiter, see where Jupiter is moving in your chart, see what house Jupiter is in, because that's going to be very telling where a lot of energy is going to be directed in your chart that year for the next year. And I'm just going to pull one more card. I'm going to pull this Oracle card. Everyone loves this deck, this color Oracle deck by Moon Nectar Apothecary. So this would be the last card I'm going to pull here. All right, so I'm going to read a little bit about this. This is the color of burgundy. Very beautiful. Oops, yeah, it's upright. So yeah, burgundy. Very beautiful color. I love it. So I'm just going to place this here. All right, so let's kind of take a little deep dive into this color. Okay, so um, burgundy is the color of the oligarchy or the bourgeoisie. So, that's what I'm talking about here. The 1%, the billionaires, the people that are, trying to have all these tax breaks and trying to hurt the world and the people, involved. And this is very elitist, holding the hierarchy under the thumb of authority. The victim victimizer dynamic, which is definitely that suppression that we're sensing with the Christian nationalist. And, people love to play the victim, but that doesn't help you change or be a better person. Um, This is class issues which we're going through, social order, power and control, the bourgeoisie, status quo, politicians, government, authority figures, taking advantage of others, cheating, lying, suppressed anger. All of what I've been talking about, all that is currently going on. Like that's why I love to end on a color in this deck because it always, every single reading I do the past 2 years I've been using this deck, it always wraps up the reading perfectly. So, this is really, like reflecting on how authority is kind of taking over your life and controlling you. And um you know, this is something that we need to really sit with. And that's why I think all these retrogrades that are happening in Aries, like Neptune, Chiron, and Saturn, is really having us reflect on, these suppressive forces, this power. And we have to find our own power. We have to find the own warrior-esque within to try to make sure that we don't get suppressed by these forces, by these people. And a lot of that is going to be anger. And that's why I'm getting a sense with like these swords cards, like the Knight of Swords, the King of Swords reverse, there's going to be a lot of anger and conflict. It's going to be very verbal. It's going to be through, the use of social media, memes, technology, information that's being spread. Like there's going to be a lot of that. Anger, directed on, both sides, the people against the 1%, the 1% against the people. Like we're seeing that play out. Um, the Burgundy personality is brutality. Um, it's overindulgent. They like to hold on to authority and control over others. It's also like bullying and like this is like, textbook of what this administration is doing. Um, and it's a pushy personality and someone who's has a pushy personality has a lot of deep anger issues and like repressed anger. They're very unhappy and like we can see that like with this whole white supremacy house and this administration no one's happy but you can see they're all being suppressed by either some type of power, and they're also being suppressed by religion, and like they're willingly suppressing themselves and playing the victim. um, and a lot of them probably have a lot of inner child work that they need to do. And we'll kind of see too if Chiron in Aries retrograde, there's going to be a lot of that coming to the surface still, like a lot of healing, deep wounded healing that, especially if you're going through your Chiron return, you're going to be feeling come to the surface. But, collectively, we're going to be seeing that play out. Um, this is the root chakra, the crown, and the earth star. Those are the chakras coming in. Um, and this primal aggressive forces for good or evil with the hierarchy of power if not in check. So we got to check this power. um Crystals is tiger's iron, garnet, and ruby. Essential oils, rose, clove, birch. And yeah, this is holding on to power and control. And this is, through ourselves and through others, like in ways that we need to hold on in power and control of ourselves. Like we need to hold on to the power and control of the Nine of Cups and of the Mother of Swords. Like we can't, let go of this energy. We have to hold on to it more than ever. Um, and we also have to be aware of how other people are trying to control and sabotage us. And we also have to connect to our own spiritual principles. And it's gonna be tough. I knew July was gonna be a hard month. I knew this summer was gonna be hard, especially in July. I kind of figured this was gonna be one of the more harder months of the year, especially on an intellectual level. But I feel by the fall of Jupiter, let's kind of see how maybe things simmer down a little bit. We'll have eclipse season, but it's going to be very heightened this month. But we have to just be aware and recognize what's going on. Like this is an education. Like we're seeing their playbook come out. There's nothing's being hidden anymore. Everything's being revealed, and now it's up to us to like sit with the information and talk about it with others, connect with other people, find solutions, and try to find a way to battle against these evil forces. And that is how the revolution begins. So you have a part in the revolution, and our part will be something that will, keep us going, keep us strong, and it will help us serve others as well. So that is the reading for July. There's so much going on this month, and I think it's going to be, pretty crazy. I think it's going to be kind of brutal. I think we're going to have to more than ever tune out and tune in and we can't take every single day off because we have to stay in reality, but we need to make sure that we're giving ourselves rest and rejuvenating, connecting to pleasure as we try to simultaneously solve these issues and solve these problems together so that we can try to reel back from this in some capacity, in some way, shape, or form. Thank you so much for tuning in, and make sure you check out my Substack where everything will be displayed. And I will see you next month. Thank you so much.